Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Healthy Hotline. And, we're sponsored by Therasage. So this is part of our Lyme series. And today we just have an all-star. It's the only way that I can describe Dr. Jaban Moore. He's got a presence on Instagram. He's got a great website, and he has a Facebook presence. And it's so simple. You just dial in Dr. Jaban, Jaban Moore, Moore. So, Jaban, welcome to the Healthy Hotline. I know you've had your own battle with Lyme and journey. I read part of your background. It's kind of really interesting to me how you got inspired basically as a child, watching your mom and her health challenges, then wanting to help her. And I think that was sort of an underpinning why you went to DC school, got a health degree, but you didn't stop there. Then in the middle of all that, you had your own challenge, and then you kind of clawed your way back there, which gave you an acute understanding of what a Lyme patient goes through. And I know you see a lot of Lyme in your practice, but for the most part, we're here today just to get some pearls of wisdom from you, from your own journey. This is just the beginning, by the way, and Dr. Jaban Moore is truly an all-star. He's amazing. And so I would like to go into all the accolades. I mean, you're functional medicine, you're doing master work in blood chemistry, you're multi-faceted in the kinds of approaches that you've taken. You really work at cellular healing, finding the root cause, creating a healthy platform. These are all the like-minded kinds of modalities and approaches that we look at Therasage. So I'm sure that's probably why I find you so interesting, and I'm really attracted to you and your energy and the things that you're doing. So Jaban, welcome to the Healthy Hotline. Jaban's in the house. Give us a shout out and tell us a little bit of backdrop if you want, and then let's move forward into talking about how we can help the well-deserved, well-needed, underserved Lyme community.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on here. I love to help people as much as I can. I'm constantly putting info out there because when I went through my journey, there weren't a lot of answers. And that's the sad part about chronic illness, whether it's Lyme or otherwise, there aren't a lot of answers. There's not enough people shouting from the mountaintop saying, this is the path you need to go on. My journey, the long story short is, yeah, my mom had chronic illness. She had diabetes and cholesterol issues and everything under the sun, from depression to weakness, and was unable to work. And I watched that growing up, and it led me down this path of, you've got to take your health by your own hands, and you've got to be your own advocate, because no one else is going to do that for you except maybe your mom. But when I was growing up, it was mom that was sick. And then I ended up at 25 after a college career, and I did pretty good in college. I was a multiple time All-American in shot put. And then I lost some weight, and I was getting fit and healthy, and my health crashed at what should have been healthiest point in my entire life. I was, fit and thin and eating well and resting and not training too hard. And the bottom fell out. I ended up with fatigue and pain and erectile dysfunction. And I went to the doctors, and they said, there's a pill for that. And that just happens. And I sat back, and I was like, that just happens. You have no answers. You're not even going to investigate. That's just it. It happens to some people. And then I went to functional medicine doctors, and they said, well, here's nitric oxide. And I was like, well, that's no different than there's a pill for that. There's a powder for that. There's a supplement for that. It's more natural. Maybe it won't hurt me as much, but why is it happening? What's the root cause of it? What's the physiological change that's causing this problem? And that's what's driven me today to where I am. It's because I don't accept anything as that just is. It's always like that little kid. You need to be 3 years old again. Why? And you need to be annoying to every doctor and every person around you. Why? Because that's the only way you're going to figure out how to get well. And that's the biggest tip I can give anybody out there, is ask why, because that why is eventually going to lead you to an answer, and that answer is going to lead you to getting well. Because in chronic health, I just did an interview with one of my clients, and honestly, I didn't even remember because I've known her since 2015 that she saw 39 doctors before me.
Wow.
She dealt with cancer and pain to the point where she had to sell her business, and brain fog and fatigue. And she just was a shell of her own self. And she just kept saying, why? Why am I like this, and not giving up, even though she literally contemplated and had a plan of how she was going to take her own life,
Wow.
which I personally never had that plan, but I was definitely headed toward that depression state and asking why. So, you said quick jump through what I went through, and that's the quick of it. I ended up driving to Wisconsin to find an answer after I don't know how many functional docs. After someone finally said, "Have you looked into Lyme?" And I found Dr. Lindsley in Wisconsin, and then he said, "Well, here's your why. You have Lyme, Babesia, Bartonella. You have some fungus. Your mitochondria is wrecked, so you're not producing any energy. And if we can get some of that turned around, you'll feel better." And I was like, okay, so that's a reason. There's an infection that's breaking down my ability to make energy that's leading to the way I feel. Got it. What do I do, doc? So let's dive into
Interesting.
that. Let's dive into that, because that is what it is for every single person out there, is what infection, toxin, or trauma has broken your system down, that has led to the place that you are. Now, it can be different for everyone, that combination, but it is usually a combination of those things.
Amazing. That's such a common, all the variables and even in your own journey, your symptoms, everybody out there that's listening today can relate to that. And I think that that's so important because you personalized it. And the depression and the emotional piece is so important also because, many times 39 doctors, my daughter saw at least 25 that I know. And what we found after her 15-year battle with Lyme was that basically she was zero sum in terms of her physiology, but her emotional state and her psychological state, every time she would get a little better, then she would relapse again. Her emotional and her psychology just kept on making new lows. And so when you talk about suicide or you talk about deep depression, it's so easy to get there, especially with a chronic challenge. So, all right, let's unpack this a little more, Jaban.
Yeah. So, and I'm just going to talk about that client. She went from at the bottom, ready to just be done. I mean, the plan was set, and somebody said, "Go see this guy." And I was in my infancy of doctor, right? I was a couple years in, and Lyme is not something that you just get taught in school. Only reason I even
Right.
had a clue about it was I had the personal journey. And when she walked in, I do a combination of things. We ran labs, we did a symptom assessment, we did a not only symptom assessment, but a chart to where we looked through all of the different organ systems and how they were working to understand, do we have a thyroid dysfunction, which she had lost her thyroid? Do we have hormones that are dysfunctioning? Do we have digestive tract that's leaky, or that maybe has parasites or Clostridia, fungus, and all the other systems of the body, which I'm not going to name everyone because there's a bunch. And then we did some muscle testing. We did some acupuncture assessment testing. And after going through all of these pieces, we took all that pile of information. I said, okay, look, based off of all this information, we knew you had Lyme, Babesia, Bartonella. You had lab testing for that. But I think you have parasites, which are really difficult to test, for stool samples, in my opinion, just don't get the job done. So after doing a parasite assessment form that I have, she was very high on that. So we said, okay, we're going to add that to the list. At the time, mold was not a part of her journey. Toxicities like heavy metal were. So I go, okay, this is the list of things. And at the top of her note was just a long list. These are the things that I know we're going to have to at least pay attention to. I may not have to address every one, because as you elevate your health, your body's going to knock out some of those on its own.
Exactly.
Typically, Candida yeast is one of those things the body will knock out on its own when you go after the rest of it. That's just my opinion on that too, or at least from what I've seen in clinical practice of thousands of clients. And we just started knocking them out, and we would do one to the next to the next. And it's different for every person, because I can tell you this is a pearl that makes me different, or at least clients have told me make me different. As I say this, you're like an onion, and you have to peel that layer off one piece at a time. You can't just cut it in half and go to the center and pull out the root of it, which I wish you could. That's a concept that I'm aware of, and I would love to be able to do that, but the body doesn't work that way, because you can put an IV in and you can chelate the heck out of a body and then have barely any metal come out. And if that person's layer of the onion on the outside that you tried to skip was some sort of emotional trauma or Lyme or a parasite, and you didn't hit that layer, little tiny bits of metal come out. But then if you peel that layer off and you throw that down, you said, okay, that was that PTSD. And then you said, okay, here's the next layer. This is heavy metals. They'll just start coming out on their own. And then you have to go, oh, here's some metal protocol to catch that as it's coming out, which if you're with a doc that's been working on this, they're going to know that these pieces are going to come. They're going to tell you, hey, at some point, you're going to get a little metal taste in your mouth. Your stool is going to be a little bit of a burn, and you're going to need to start taking that binder, because that burning stool, that burning, itching, tingly hand can be mold, it can be metal, it can be Lyme. But after this step, if you start just flushing all these toxicities out, here's the next piece that we're going to have. And I tell people all the time, okay, we're going to do a parasite, bacteria, and then at some point around there, it's going to come flooding out. But it's because you are unraveling the onion, you're building the strength of the body, which is some of the tools we're going to dive into. And as that strength builds, your body starts helping you. And that's the point. That relapse, you said your daughter's mental state, or my client's mental state, with every doctor, with every relapse, got a little worse. It's because it's fear that you're not going to get over the hump. And that fear is real. And it's not something to be ashamed of, but it is something to work on.
Yeah, you also lose hope.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just it's the fear, and you've exhausted most of your money, right? You're trying your best to find a doctor that'll give you a clue. And so you're trying to navigate through the sea of practitioners that call themselves Lyme-literate. That's why I love you and what you're talking about, because you've got this personal journey, and you found the light at the end of the tunnel. And what you're articulating is the fabric of everybody's tapestry, in a sense, and it's different. Everybody presents differently, and the pieces of the puzzles will set up in a particular order. And so for you having that insight, it's so important. And for everybody out there that's listening that may have just tuned in, if you don't find a practitioner that has empathy for the things that you're talking about, your symptoms and the way you feel, find another practitioner, because they're not the right one for you. So keep going, Jaban. You're on a roll here. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, it's okay. I want to tap into one thing you said real quick. What is Lyme-literate? Because I bumped into too many guys that are Lyme-literate, right? Like, what is that?
Exactly.
It's the concept that you acknowledge that there is a bacterial infection that causes symptoms, because I'm pretty sure that's the definition of it. It doesn't mean that you've been through it, which you don't have to go through it, right? I've got friends out there that are great practitioners that have not specifically been through Lyme themselves, but they acknowledge it, and then it's become a passion and they help it. But Lyme-literate is you acknowledge it's there, but you don't necessarily acknowledge that it takes time. It can wreak havoc on the body, that it is in combination with so many co-infections, toxins, and traumas. Because too many Lyme-literate doctors are like, okay, well, you have Lyme, here's this protocol, whether it's all the silver, colloidal silver, or all the antibiotic, and just pound. And well, why aren't you better? I didn't do it. No, that's not Lyme-literate. That's Lyme acceptant, maybe.
Right.
So I got to get off that soapbox. Sorry. It's just, that was one of those.
No. I get it. And sometimes Lyme-literate means that they took a long weekend course somewhere so that they can say that they are, or, but that's very different than having the experience and also having, real results. And I know after meeting with you, like, part of your rudimentary doctrines isn't just isn't just to know that, a product, a device, or a protocol. You need to test it. You need to see for yourself with your own eyes that it actually works and that it's vetted. And then you apply it. Many times you apply it to yourself before you even bring it out to your clinic. But the idea that you go through that process is so important for people to understand how authentic you are and how real it is in terms of your disciplines and what you go through before you'll even introduce the concept to your patients. Real important.
I don't think anyone should be telling somebody to do things that they haven't at least done or used themselves. I mean, you look right behind me, and I've got a sauna here that I personally have in my house, and it's honestly really easy to store away. I just moved, so I got like a stack of stuff I'm still finding places for, right? But that one I got to pull in and out because I'm using it. And the girlfriend doesn't always love big, huge black boxes everywhere. So you can probably attest to the wife going, you got way too much technology laying around. You got way too many things. Where are we going to put these? And I'm like, it keeps us healthy.
That's it.
Well, yeah, and we were on the run through just recovery, right? And I was talking about the onion and peeling it, and
right.
We peel back the layers, and that's how you get well. But as you peel the layers back, there's steps to that, right? So yes, you have to identify the steps, and then you have to identify what order the steps go in. But then even as you go through that, detox, immune function takes energy. Just remembering to take all your pills in the day for someone that's chronically ill is a task, right? It's not easy to remember to take 3 doses of pills when your brain is completely dysfunctional. I joke with clients every day. I'm like, I know you're not going to remember anything we say at the end of this appointment. So let me send you a quick email of what I want you to be doing. And it's not to be rude. It's just because it's an acknowledgement that you're going through something, and I'm going to try and do my best to support you through this process. So what tools can we use to help you through that, right? So my first parasite protocol for somebody, let's say that's step 1. After we've opened up detox and drainage by supporting liver, lymph, gallbladder, and colon, making sure you go to the bathroom every day. So that's really step 1. And then we go, okay, so now we need to get after parasites. Okay. Do you detox well? Do you react to supplements? That's my biggest question to people. Do you react when you do a protocol? Have you ever done one before? And they're like, oh yeah, I went to so-and-so's clinic and he gave me wormwood and I crashed and burned. Oh, okay. So in that case, let's do a sensitive protocol, and let's also add tools to your body to build its energy so you can detox, so you can have an immune response without completely wiping you out, because you got 3 kids at home and you don't have time to be bedridden, right? So do you have a sauna? Because if you do, you can get in the sauna a couple times a week, which you're going to need to take some minerals for that and some binders with it. But that itself is going to help your detox pathways because you're going to sweat out the toxins. You're going to get stuff moving out of your body. The red light is going to help your energy system. So this sauna specifically with Therasage has red lights built into it. So now you're getting red light therapy and you're getting a sauna at the same time. Now, everybody listening, be careful. That's a lot of good, and a lot of good can do a lot of function, and anything that has a positive effect needs to be managed. So start with a couple minutes first and build up, everybody. I always say stuff like that. I'm like, if you don't get any response from something you're doing, is it doing anything? So there's always that. Anything with a therapeutic effect can have some sort of toxic effect at some level if your body's not ready for it. And although I don't think the sauna's toxic, your body may have a lot of toxins that are moving out if you do 2 hours your first day.
That's so true, because especially when we're doing our coaching, people that have chronic challenges, they're so sick of being sick that when they get a little result, they wind up diving into the deep end of the pool before they really know how to swim. And so going low and slow is such an important pearl for all of you to understand. If you're younger and you may have gotten somehow affected by Lyme when in your early ages, because your immune system was strong, you may not have actually become symptomatic for 10 or 15 years later. But that toxic level, all those poisons and stuff your body has been building up to the point where you become symptomatic. So now that's sort of what I call climbing the toxic mountain. It's hard to fall up a mountain when you're climbing, but it's really easy to fall down a mountain if you take too many big giant steps. So low and slow is some really great advice, and also having a realistic timeline of when you're going to start to feel better, so that you don't have unrealistic expectations and that you lose it. You got to stay with it. So sorry if I keep jumping in, but I love the train of thought you're on, Jaban.
Yeah, I mean, low and slow, or the concept of it's a marathon, not a sprint, for so many people. And you said, a realistic timeline, right? So I tell clients all the time, it's 18 months to 2 years before we're into recovery. That doesn't mean you haven't seen progress. You for sure should see progress before that period of time. But that's before I go, okay, we're done going all at it. We're done with addressing things. We're likely to the point where now it's like, okay, I'll see you in 6 months. We'll do another quick protocol just to keep you well, because we live in a super toxic environment. It's a toxic soup of things that we're living in, from the food to the water to the air. I mean, I'm drinking distilled water here right now. We've got air filters in my house. We use ozone to keep the toxins down. We do red light to get our photonic energy, because I'm not in the sun nearly enough because I probably work too much. I sauna to flush the toxins deeply out. I sweat in there, but then I sweat in the gym too, right? So those are all things that keep me well once you are well. But that low and slow, building up at a consistent pace, but knowing you're going to go like this as you're climbing that mountain. Because there's going to be times where we have to push a little faster, and you're going to get a little out of breath, like if you're running up a mountain, or you're going to get a little toxic, not tremendously toxic, as you're going up that mountain. So no, it's like we don't sprint. No one sprints up a mountain. That's a normal person, right? If you're sick, you're not sprinting up a mountain. You're walking. There's times where you're like, let me take a little breather, and you need to do that too. You need to look at the top and go, okay, I have an estimated time frame, an idea, but you are making progress, right? So I tell people we're going to go 3 months, and then we're going to take a week off, and you should feel some better. You're not going to be better. And then we're going to go back into protocols, and you're going to feel some worse after that week off. And then we're going to go 3 more months, and then you're going to feel a bit better. And then we're going to go 3 more months. You're going to feel quite a bit better. And, maybe after a year, then we're going to be like, okay, you feel pretty human again, right? You feel well again. I got a guy who came in after going to some of those big box clinics, the big, huge name clinics that I'm not going to mention, and being told, okay, we got to burn out your heart. You're on morphine, you're on Lyrica, and you're going to be that way maybe for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Fibromyalgia. He was 23.
My God.
20 when he came. He's 23 now. And now he's like, my brain is functioning. I'm working. I'm going to school at the same time. He's coming in and shadowing me, thinking about, do I want to come and do this for a living? Although I think he's going to end up doing some sort of finance, because his brain is just numbers like crazy now. When he came into me, he had quit school because he couldn't think.
Yeah.
And
very common.
And just as we went through it, there's ups, there's downs, and this guy just kept holding on. But he told me, he's like, you are it. You're the last one. I've been to 25 doctors, and I don't love ever hearing I'm the last one, but we had success, and it's because he knew, because we had that communication, it's going to take time. And he did everything. He did coffee enemas. He got a sauna, and he swears by the sauna. I mean, like, it is his ride or die. If there's one thing he can take with him, he's like, I'm gonna carry that thing on vacation. And but now where we are, and I love saying this, we're to a point where he knows that his body is not a body to which he can just stop detoxing, right? So we live in this toxic environment. So I told him an HMET a day, which is a heavy metal binder, keeps the doctor away. It's no longer an apple. Unfortunately, it's not just the nutrients we get in, it's the toxins we get out in today's world. It's the mitochondrial support that we give him, the mito ATP, to keep his mitochondria up, that regulates your immune system, right? So, as I tie everything together here, it's if we can keep our mitochondria supported, which control energy and immune, if your cellular energy is up, your cellular energy will keep your body rebuilding, detoxing, and immune functioning. So if you can take everything down from all this complicated stuff, all these labs, and if I can just look at your cellular energy, and if we can find that your cellular energy is great, it's hard to get you sick. It's hard to get you injured. Because if your cellular energy is up, your body is resilient. But what breaks that down? If I'm looking at an organic acid test and I'm looking at your Krebs cycle, if I'm looking at your fatty acid oxidation, if I'm looking at a hair tissue mineral test, I'm looking at your calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. And sodium and potassium are huge there. If those are low, then your ability to get things in and out of your cell are low, right? So if I'm looking at those tests and those things are dysfunctional, your ability to heal and to stay well, to mount an immune reaction is trashed. And mold does that exquisitely. And the key things to Lyme is never stop looking under every stone until you are well, because so many people with Lyme that I see that have seen 20 doctors didn't realize that they either had radioactive elements or they had mold under the hood. And they've hit every herbal out there for Lyme, every medication for bacteria, for parasites, but they haven't done those two things. And that's why I am constantly in a research mode of what am I missing? Because every time I find the next thing, I get a client that gets well from that. And then I get a client that I do everything I've ever done and they don't get well. I'm just like, okay, what's the next thing?
Cool. Yeah, that unwavering ability you have to stay focused, and the thirst for you to understand all these underlying causes and the root causes, and to dissect them in a sense and then stack them is so unique among all the practitioners that we know. And over the years, we've had many interactions. I would just want to comment on one thing that that's helped us. That you speak about the peeling of the onion and the process by which the body starts to heal. And then when you do it and you kind of figure it out and you get a foundational piece and you start to build a strong foundation, the body has memory, muscles have memory, cells have memory. And so it starts to tune up. It's almost like a symphony tuning up. And at some point it becomes sort of exponential. So in the beginning, it may seem slow because you're really to build a strong foundation, you have to do it solidly. And what we do oftentimes is if the patients are good about it, we ask them to start to journal. And I'll give you a quick example. For Julia, she experienced body pain. And so at one point I said, I can't relate to you when you say you have pain. Give me a number on it. She said, well, if I said to her, if it's 1 through 10, 10 being the most amount of pain, how are you presenting today? A number 8 or a number 9? And what we noticed once we started doing protocols, in the beginning of the month, she was an 8-9 and 8-9, but by the end of the month, she was a 5-6. Mm-hmm. Now, if she went to her normal practitioner and the practitioner looks at his little checklist and he says, Julia, are you in pain? She'd say yes. The answer is yes, but she's not a 9. She's a 6. Mm-hmm. Now, going from a 9 to a 6 may seem, not, either subtle or not incremental enough, but it gives you a feeling of first hope, and second, that you're moving in the right direction with whatever protocols you're doing. And it just takes time, like you say. So we use journaling very effectively to try to allow the patient to understand the subtle changes that are happening while that orchestra is tuning up.
Oh yeah. If you looked at my notes, it would look a lot like what you just said. My first visit with clients, I take history and I do all the other things we talked about, but I get this list and I'm like, give me 10 things that you're dealing with: brain fog, depression, anxiety. 10 is that you got to go to the hospital, you broke your arm kind of bad, and 0 is none at all for the whole thing. So we keep it simple. And I go rate your depression, anxiety, brain fog, neuropathy, pain, all the things, right? And whatever you're dealing with, internal tremors, suicidal thought, whatever it is, OCD, tics, rate them all. Okay, you gave me a 5, 10, 4, 6, and then next visit, rate them again. Next visit, rate them again.
Very cool. Super cool. Really super important, especially.
And we see that trend line.
Yeah. And that's so key.
I've had to go back for people and go, do you remember back this? Here's your note. And I put on the screen on Zoom and they're like, this is your note. Like, I didn't change this. I did it right now. 9876. You just gave me a 5443. And because you're not well yet, because you're so tired of fighting this, you feel like you're not any better. And then they go, you're right. You're right. I needed that. I needed to remember where I had been. And that gives me hope to keep moving forward, because I know that now I remember, because we block that stuff out. I mean, think about people coming back from the military. They block out those bad times. Right. They don't remember it. And clients do the same thing, which would take us down this whole other rabbit hole of the neurological and limbic retraining, which that is super powerful too.
Yeah. Wow. So many pearls. We only have a few minutes left, and I'm so pleased that you joined us today, Jaban Moore. You're amazing. By the way, let's just go back a step. And if you need to get a hold of Dr. Jaban Moore on his Facebook, Instagram, or website, he made it so easy. Dr. Jaban Moore. That's it. That's how you find him. So with the few minutes we have left, Dr. Jaban, is there any things that you may have left out that you feel are super important for us to know? Because everything you've talked about today was so inspirational and so foundational that I know that everybody out there can relate to, many of the things that you've talked about today.
Hope is everything. I always say hope through healing. And I try to post out there people healing. So have hope. Focus on the positive things in your life and set goals. So when you're going through a healing journey, why? Why do you want to heal? What is it that you think you get at the end of this? Is it time with your grandkids? Is it time with your kids? For me, it was, I wanted to be able to have a family someday. That was my goal. So in my mind, I was like, this is why I'm doing that. So that gives you the why, because you need a why. And then celebrating the wins. So if you went from a 10 out of 10 pain to a 9 out of 10 pain, celebrate it. Take that as a win. Don't lose hope. Don't lose focus. Like, don't go, I'm good. Obviously you still hurt, but celebrate that win, and tell your husband, your wife, your children, your grandmother, your business partner, whoever, I'm doing it. We're making progress. So it's just setting yourself up for success with hope, but also by talking with people, knowing your why so that you keep going, and doing the little things in the day that make it easier, because it's not easy to heal. My joke is I will never remember to take my supplements. So I put them next to my toothbrush, because I will remember to brush my teeth. Mama always made me brush my teeth twice a day. So if I put my stuff there, I know I'm at least going to get 2 doses in. And by getting 2 doses in, I've even split I'm supposed to do it 3 times. I'm like, sorry, doc, I can't remember that 3rd time. I put into 2. And most docs will work with you, because 3 split into 2 is better than none.
Right.
Make things as simple as possible. Don't complicate it, because when it's simple, compliance goes up and you have more success.
Right. So cool. One thing about Jaban, his practice is virtual. So he has a regular solid clinic that you can come and visit with him, but he also will work with you no matter where you are on the planet. And that's so important, because he's got so much great experience, and through the types of questions that he asks, he can really get a pretty good handle as to the game plan to put together that'll get you back on track. Dr. Moore, man, you're seriously an all-star. Thank you so much for joining us, the Healthy Hotline, and welcome back to another episode, everybody. Dr. Jaban Moore, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I loved it.
Hey everybody, it's Robbie Bessner. Thanks so much for joining us today. Please share this content with anyone that you think might benefit from it, and we're looking forward to having you with us tomorrow for another great interview.